Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's that time again. It's New Comic Book Day Book Club. With me, as always, we got John's Comics with Kids. What's up, buddy?
Hey, book club. We got some good indies this week.
Well, you got some good indies. I got a good indie because my shop sold out of the other book. But also, special guest, we have Ryan, aka New Guy Comics. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? I'm just excited to be here, to be honest.
Well,
I did get more than just one book though, so I guess I'm in John's camp.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, don't get your expectations up too high because once you're on this side of the show, you realize what a train wreck it is.
It's fair.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. And we currently have goose egg viewers, so everyone's probably chilling with Bueller over on Reggie's channel. Probably better use of their time. Anyway, we're here today to talk about something that is very important to me before we get to the book.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if this book was like.
No.
Okay.
It's very important to Kyle Higgins if you read the thing at the end. But yeah, so I feel the need to say this in public on the record. The comic hobby is dead because here's the thing. I'm sure everyone who's on comic Instagram knows about the current fervor for trading cards that has come about in the last week or so, and how comic book rookie cards have become a thing, and how people are sending Series 1 Marvel cards to PSA and stuff to get them graded and sell them. And that was silly enough because those cards for years have literally been thrown in the trash by comic shops because they were absolutely worthless. And then someone came along and said, I bet we could sell these. Let's mark them way up and see if people will buy them. So here's the problem. The industry has become nothing but insider trading, right? Someone decides that Marvel Previews 95 is something that people should care about and sells a copy for $10,000 or whatever the hell it was. And because it sold for that much, people want it. It's the same thing with these cards. Because they see sold listings on eBay, suddenly people want them. No one cared about them before because they're worthless. But so here's where it went over the line for me, and I sent this to John, saw this, is that the free trading card in one of the highest printed comic books of all time, X-Force 1, the Deadpool trading card, which is his rookie card, has sold multiple sold auctions in the past week for over $100, which means it's only a matter of time before X-Force 1 polybagged with a Deadpool card is over $100. Yeah, so here's the thing about that there were 5 million copies of that book sold. 5 million. And
isn't it? I think it's the second most printed
behind X-Men 1. Yeah.
Right.
So if they were evenly distributed, that means there were 1 million Deadpool ones. Even if you count the probably 200,000 that have also been thrown in the garbage because they are worthless books, you're still looking at 800,000 copies of that book in existence. So 800,000 copies of that card. Yeah, Jeff Schultz said Deadpool card and X-Force 1 sold for $229 today. So there's two things. There's one of two things happening here. One is that these are real sales and people are actually thinking that they're worth something, which is upsetting. Or two, people are faking the sales in hopes that they can sell them for more money to schlubs. Either way, it's terrifying and irresponsible. and I want no part of it. And we are seeing the death throes of industry that I have cared about for 30 years, and it is very sad to see. Having said all that, don't give in to the hype. Keep buying what you love. Keep reading what you love. And hey, if you want to buy those cards for that amount of money, go ahead, but don't come crying to me when nobody cares in a year.
And I also want to mention I have an auction coming up, and I have an X-Force Shatterstar card.
Hey, you never know. It's funny you should say that, because I remember when New Mutants 98 first got kind of big back in the day.
That's the first appearance of Gideon, right?
It's the first appearance of Gideon, and people cared more about it because it was the first appearance of Gideon than because it was the first appearance of Deadpool. So Gideon hype, Shatterstar hype, who the hell knows? It's a crapshoot.
I would say, so without
Thanks, Jeff.
making too many jokes, like I totally agree with you, and I used to pop into auctions all the time where people would be saying, hey, this one might have the Deadpool card in it, and it was like a joke that book maybe would get a $10 bid in that auction. So yeah, I totally agree. A $300 price tag on that book is stupid.
Anyway, let's say hi to some friends and talk about something more positive. Comic Books Will Break Your Heart was here first. Thank you very much for stopping by. Hey, new guys in the chat as well as on the show. TJ, thanks for stopping by. Always a pleasure. And because I'm a terrible host, I forgot to link Ryan's channel in the comments. So John put it there for us so everyone can check him out. Alexander, thank you. TikTok sucks. Yes, well, I mean, if it came out on time, maybe we would feel differently about it. No Good Comics, what's up, buddy? Always great to see you. Jeff Schultz, good to see you as well. I think I already shouted you out because of your information here. Thank you very much. TJ says, oh my God, X-Force 1. Does that mean Thanatos is rich now? Yeah. TJ, for those of you who don't know, calls X-Force 1 packing material because it is so worthless. More to my point. And Old Wolf 65, what's up, Tony? Good to see you too. Now, that's all I have to say about that. Take it for what it's worth. We are here not to talk about trading cards. We're here to talk about comic books, specifically this one, Radiant Black #1. John got the cool cover. I got the cover that was available at my shop.
I knew you would like this one just because of all the negative space.
Yeah, very minimalist. It really does it for me.
And although
that one's really cool
one with just the mask, like the mask was the main component.
I was going to say the 1 in 50.
Yeah, that was
a 1 in 50.
That was a ratio, right?
Yeah.
Chaos and Comics.
It was really nice.
I like for John. That's understandable.
I got the Comixology version, so worthless book. Worthless. No.
much like an X-Force 1. Might as well be a digital comic.
Yeah, but digital doesn't work as well for packing material, unless you just don't want the device anymore. You know,
you use your device as packing material. It's got to be a cheaper way.
When you're really fed up with social media.
Okay, so do we want to go over our initial grade opinions first, and then as we usually do? So, John, what do you think?
I think I'm going to give this one. I've gone back and forth. I'm going to give this one an 8. I think out of 10. There was enough here that I really enjoyed. There were some great art pages that I was just really impressed with, and some panels I thought were really good. The things holding it back for me, I think it was a little too simple, a little too flat in some of the dialogue bits, a little too forced in some of the areas. So I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. And I don't think I'm going to get a second issue, but I don't know how passionate I am about it.
Okay, that's fair. Ryan, what'd you think?
I mean, I kind of agree in a lot of ways with John. For me, I come in really more like at a 7 on this because I think I have a little more faith in the property because of my relation to Power Rangers and what Kyle Higgins did for that, and knowing that this is kind of derivative of that. But I do agree with you. Like, I felt like the characters were very basic. The dialogue was kind of flat. Nothing really stood out in any meaningful way to me. Other than like the graphic design and the logo design, I really love that aspect of it. But the art looks like pretty standard bubblegum pop art. A lot of the dialogue, it's good, but it's not great. And the storytelling is, again, good, but not great. So overall, I think like a 7, but I will be sticking on just because I believe in, the creator and what he might be able to do with it.
Kaz in Comics is calling you out in the chat.
I see him.
Yeah, so I am going to explain my rating here. I mean, yeah, fair.
Comicsology Library. Ouch.
There you go. Damn.
Got you this time,
Gotcha.
Chaos.
Got him. I'm going to give it an 8.2. And here's why. Because week after week after week, I shit all over books because they're not paced well. And I thought for the most part, this book was paced very well. So I have to give it respect for that. It was entertaining enough. The ending was disappointing I'm sure you know why. We'll get there. I thought the only portion that kind of went too fast for me, so like up to the point where he gains his powers, I thought even though maybe some of the dialogue could have been done better and some of the conversations could have been more engaging, it was paced very well. And then things kind of sped up a little more than I wanted them to, but it still wasn't like offensively bad as like some books we've read. So yeah, 8.2. Having said that,
I'm curious about the point too, and I've never heard that you get to that like the specificity of that point two is fascinating to me right now.
Yeah, well, I'm all about specificity. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I guess the first Deceased like was paced fine. It just was, you know what I think about that. What's up, Robert Galvin in the chat? So the plot of this book is the main character is is living in LA, trying to make it as a writer. Remarkably, incredibly in debt to the tune of about $38,000 because he is has not made it as a writer and he's living in LA. So he has to kind of give up that life and return home to live with his parents in Illinois, right?
I don't. Oh, well, it does mention Chicago is nearby. So, yeah, I kind of took it as like the Midwest, Illinois area.
It says I almost missed it, but there's
Lockport, Illinois.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they did put a state
on the first panel, yeah. It says it like right here, kind of blends in. But yeah, that little black box, it says where he is. So he returns to live with his parents because he is out of money. And one of his old high school buddies kind of runs into him and says, "Hey, let's go out drinking. Let me show you the towns. You haven't been here in a while." And so they go out and kind of talk about what he's been doing. And he confesses that, I'm really far in debt and I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And they leave the bar and they see this glowing light over these train tracks and they go to investigate it. And when he touches it, it kind of melds with him and gives him this super suit, which allows him to like pick up a train that's coming and these police who are trying to interrogate them, and allows him to fly with his buddy to this rooftop where they kind of try to figure out what's going on with it. He then also tells him that, I never really, I kind of wasted my chance to be a writer because I did have an agent looking to talk to me about my book. That was 4 years ago, and I never even finished the first chapter because I am afraid it's not going to be good enough, blah, 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 which really hit home for me, let me tell you And then, so he says, like, I feel like this is important. I feel like I need to do something with this. And then let's hold off on the end for just a moment, I'll be right. So we can talk about the good parts of the book first. Gorilla Todd, what's up, buddy? So did I cover all the important parts?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main stuff. I think it's a very simple setup. So there's not a ton of characters. There's not a ton of character development. It's just a lot of like just surface level. Here's the basics of what we're doing.
Yeah, I feel like they started to try to develop the main character. His best friend or his buddy, whatever, is very. He felt like much more of a foil to me. Like he was kind of one note, there to serve a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Because I felt like in the beginning of this book, they never really established like a childhood friend or somebody outside of his family that he would have to confront with his failure. But then he shows up at home and just like immediately reconnects with this guy. And one night is already telling him like how bad in debt he is and how bad he's failed at his dreams and stuff. And that part didn't feel very organic to me. It felt like the friend was there to progress the plot or the story.
Right. Yeah.
I will absolutely say the friend is my least favorite part of this whole thing for me. Like if they had found another way, another device to set him in this town, I would have been far more positive about this book. The friend, every time he opened his mouth, I was like, oh God, this book. But like the opening bit, I loved these first 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
The setup of him in the car talking to his agent, the heartbreak of it all, and the beauty of him as the Uber driver, that finale bit there when it's
so
revealed.
Good.
It's such a great 2 pages that even when I was frustrated with the friend, I kept going, remember those first 2 pages? Remember those first 2 pages?
Yeah, which is kind of like what I was mentioning about the pace of it, is that a lot of books you would see them do all of that in half a page. And you miss, like, even though maybe the development of his character wasn't done quite as well as it could have been, he was trying to develop him as being this desperation of like, because he's talking to this loan officer saying, hey, like, could you really do anything for me? Here's my situation, blah, blah, blah. And then he kind of just, after they say, no, sorry, there's really nothing we can do, and he hangs up, he starts to cry in his car, at which point that's when the guy comes over and knocks on his window. Is like, should we order a different Uber? Are you okay, man? Which was
perfectly played for the comedy. I really like the way that played. It, like you said, it kind of let it breathe a lot. I think that's where they could have established, in that conversation when he kind of realizes he's screwed and he's going to have to move back home. Just like, oh my God, my friend from high school, Marshall's going to be there. And, just say something about his personality so that we kind of know that's coming. And I think that alone would have established a more organic connection at the bar.
Yeah. I mean, even if it was like, so I really liked the fact that he had to go home because he failed. Because if he had chosen to go back home for a different reason, like, I feel like it wasn't like, maybe they didn't, kind of establish this or make it pay off well enough. But I think the fact that he is going to become a superhero and the fact that he feels as though he is a failure in life are kind of like, 2 sides of the coin. So totally. I like that they created this, he's kind of like at his wit's end, like he has no choice. The end of his rope, he's just like, I have to go back home and live with my parents, even though I'm 35 or whatever. But yeah, I would have liked it more if he had been like at home for a couple of days and just kind of like putzing about and then finally says like, oh, maybe I should call up whatever his name is and see if he wants to get together so I can just get out of the house, rather than literally as he's walking out of the taxi to get back with his parents holding a box, the guy just like walks up on the sidewalk. It's like, hey, I ran into your parents at the mini mart and they told me you were going to be here. Wasn't the smoothest, but
I will also say I don't know that they define the friend very well at all, considering he's only with him about 4 pages before the superhero stuff kicks. So I can't decide, am I supposed to feel like this guy is just an annoyance from the past that he's dealing with? Is this guy the best friend that maybe he should reconnect with in some way? Is this guy gonna be like the kid in Shazam who's teaching him how to use his powers? That's gonna be like his friend mentor. This character is so ill-defined, he's just annoying, and that's all.
Well, yeah, he's very inconsistent was kind of my problem. Like when they're at the bar, he comes off as the responsible one. But then whenever they're out to the train tracks, like he kind of seems scared of everything, scared of the world, you know. Maybe that's why he didn't leave home until he gets the powers, and then he's like the bravest guy in the world. But then they get on the tower after that, and he seems all confused and like weirded out. So like I felt like his character changed with almost every scene, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's an extraordinary circumstance. So his reactions to things are, who knows, but
Unexpected. Yeah,
I agree that like it seemed weird. But they referenced a couple of times that they were very close growing up in school. So did they have a falling out? Like they never referenced that. Why hasn't he talked to him in so long?
And again, I think to your point, Alec, that you give him even if you spent a page showing time passage, moving in, being bored at home, doing the dishes, getting in dad's way when the football game's on. You have all those moments of just like, I need to find an out. And then it's like, yeah, maybe I'm going to finally answer the phone when this guy who's been calling me every day calls this time.
Right. And then
only you get a sense of all of these things without having that awkward stand in the driveway scene.
And not only would that, work better, I think, from a storytelling standpoint, introducing the friend, but it also is a way to kind of reinforce how much of a loser this guy is. If he's just like, not, he's burning his lunch, or he's, like you said, getting the dad's way when he's trying to watch football, like he just can't catch a break and he rips his pants or something, like
we're just seeing a compounded visual of all the things that can't seem to go right. And so this, calling up Marshall is like the best thing it's like the best option he's got. And that makes Marshall even more entertaining when Marshall has this personality, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't try to rewrite this book. My point is that the character of Marshall comes off as very ill-defined. Mm-hmm. And then by extension, it's Nathan, right? Some of Nathan's decision-making it comes off as a little inconsistent.
Yeah, but I also think credit to the main character, Nathan. I think it's really cool. Like, we're of this generation that's kind of like become anti-toxic masculinity, And so now men of this age are kind of expected to be out front with their feelings and like you admit failure, you admit mistakes and things like that. But I think we're still in this like tough spot where we do, but we don't. And I feel like Nathan like totally nailed that in the sense that like he was always quick to admit openly that he failed, but it never seemed like internally he actually bought it. And so I thought that really helped define like, his age range and kind of like connects with people of a certain generation.
Yeah, it's definitely the Facebook generation of like, I'm feeling this way, but like, are you really, or are you just saying that to get a response from people? Mm-hmm. The only one other thing, you said we don't want to rewrite the book, but I feel like, and maybe it's just the way the writer conceived of the power source, but he learned to use his powers way too fast. Like one of the great things for me about a superhero origin story is like the fumbling and bumbling through the first couple of tries. Like, it's a classic Spider-Man thing where he like tries to figure out how to climb a wall or shoot his webs or, see kind of if he can jump off a building and like, kind of push the limits, or in this, he's just lifting up trains and flying without any problems. And maybe it's just a different kind of direction he wants to take it in, where it's not about him discovering his powers. It's about discovering what he's supposed to do with the powers. But I don't know. I just missed that kind of like awkward like toddler walking stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on too, because they rush through those elements, and you end up getting instead you get action without substance behind it, right? So there's the train sequence, which looks amazing.
Great. Yeah, that 2-page. Yeah, that was a great page.
Just really cool. Like the color work is super strong.
Yeah.
And when he first gets the suit, that splash is really cool looking. The design, I think Ryan earlier was talking about the design of the logo and the design of the look of for those trying to figure out what the title means, I think it's just the idea of this sort of sphere that's like
they describe it like a
black hole,
an
event horizon, and that it's sort of the radiant black element. That's kind of the look of it that looks so great, but it kills the pacing when the emotional character stuff gets thrown out, you know, and you're just jumping into plot points, which is like why the cops needed to be there and the train needed to, and like before long it's this huge thing instead of like a chance to dive a little simpler into the character, you know.
Yeah, so obviously the writer wrote Power Rangers for quite a while, and in the kind of afterward, kind of like what's going to be the letters page.
The letters page, yeah.
The author wrote this thing about why this is important to him, and he references the fact that he drew a lot of inspiration from not necessarily the Power Rangers from a story standpoint, but from how the Power Rangers makes him feel. As far as like an adventure. So I guess he nailed it. So the end, huh? He was doing so well. I was entertained. I was giving him credit for his pacing, and then you had to shit on the last page by doing a last page villain reveal, which is just
it's such a cliche.
Really turns me off on it. I'm sorry. And I know that's just me, and that's my own personal qualms with how comic books are these days. But I feel like there was so much more they could have done with a cliffhanger where, like, you know, even something as silly as like his suit disappears and they're stuck on this roof and they're like, okay, well, what do we do now? You know, it doesn't have to be this big, like, next time on
world ending. Yeah,
it's like this guy Robin Banks who has a different suit.
Yeah,
which that image was really cool. I agree on the reveal though. It was a little cheesy, and like, so I agree with you on the issue. I think the issue is very well paced for what it is. Unfortunately, I don't feel like the story as a series is being well paced, because I think it almost would have been better if we had got like some of the stuff you were talking about, right? Because we start this issue seeing him slip into this depressive downward spiral. And I would have liked to see most of the issue focus on like, how far down can we take this character? And then, like you said, at the end, he finally answers the call and his friend's like, I'm going to come pick you up and we're going to go out for drinks. And that could have been a cliffhanger. And that would have decompressed this first issue and really got us into this world and these characters. And then in the next one, they could have introduced all the Radiant Black power set or something, you know.
I totally agree with you. The only issue is that, like, from a sales standpoint, I feel like unless he literally printed this himself, I don't think a publisher would allow him to not have the guy get his powers in the first issue. I think I think a lot of comics would benefit from things slowing way down and him not getting the powers in the first issue, and maybe even introducing the villain before they introduce the hero. But
or even, I mean, we saw the Radiant Black orb with him. What if we saw a red one in a different city somewhere else floating in the air with a hand reaching towards it? We don't need to see the person who gets it or know what's going to happen, but we can see that this is not an isolated incident and what's it going to mean for our character.
Yeah.
And at a meta level, that would have been really interesting, because we wouldn't know if the person getting this red orb is good or bad, but we know the writer is drawing from Power Rangers. He wrote Power Rangers. So is the red one going to be a new team member? Are we getting a team out of it? Like that could have led to a lot of speculation about, is this going to be a team thing like Power Rangers? Or are we going to go like a little more Kamen Rider and just have a single player here, So I think there could have been a lot more that would have been interesting as a reader if there had been a little more mystery to it.
Yes. I feel like, I think it's kind of the I don't really know how to say this, but I guess the difficulty of having a review show is that it's so much easier to focus on the things that could be improved or that we didn't like. Remember, like we all gave this fairly high scores. Ryan gave it a 7. John and I gave it an 8 and an 8.2. But if you missed that beginning and came in now, you would probably think we didn't like the book. And especially knowing me, you probably definitely would think I didn't like the book because I don't like anything.
Kind of why I think I started having us do the scores, just so people could have a reference point, because sometimes it's easy to get into the nitty gritty, which is the point of the show. I mean, I really do think that I don't see a lot of review shows getting into individual panels like we do, and individual spread pages and progression of story across pages. So it's easy to nitpick when you do that kind of thing. It's not like reading a trade where you stay on story the whole time. We're able to get into the details. And I think as good as a setup as this is, and as fun as the art style is, there are definitely things that frustrate, because you're like, oh, this could have been incredible. It was fun and diverting, and maybe there's a fun continuation that could go on here with further issues. But for me, it was just right on the edge of being something that I was really like leaning forward and being interested in.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it was very close. A couple things real quick before we get to more thoughts on that. Chaos and Comics, we have, interesting you should say that, we have something to tell you later. And a Comic Book G-Spot with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. As everyone probably knows by now, super chats on book club, we donate them to charity. So thank you very much. We could be donating that to a literacy campaign as soon as Google wants to pay me.
I don't know that I've ever gotten a super chat during book club, so I got to be ready for that.
Yeah. You can go into your my YouTube page and you can
break it down, right? Yeah.
So appreciate that, Robert. It was very kind of you. So, John, what you were just saying about how it was so close. I agree. I mean, and honestly, these days for issue number 1s, so close is like a mile above what most things are. So like huge shout out to the creative team on this book, because getting so close is like winning the marathon. You know what I mean? It's like I can't remember like the last time I said, oh yeah, this issue 1 completely knocked it out of the park. I wouldn't change a thing. Little Bird, maybe.
I mean, there's been I don't think I would have changed much about Scout's Honor, which was, a month ago now. Like, I don't know that I would have made huge changes to that. I think it was, I felt confident enough in that. And there've been a few, but nothing. Obviously, Little Bird was an element of perfection as far as like, ooh, let's hands off, or Silver Surfer Black, some of those kind of things. But but I don't
comics as a comment of the night. That's very, very upsetting. But thank you.
Oh yeah, his friend Marshall
comic skate, and so like you're the best comic skater because he hates it, and you don't do it. So
in contrast, Johnny Boy, thanks for stopping by. I like listening to you guys talk. You all sound so smart. I'm so bad at reviews. All I need to do is 2 thumbs up or 2 thumbs down. Hey, it's not about being smart. It's just saying things. I mean, I've said it many, many times on the show. I'm a complete idiot. Don't listen to anything I say.
Well, I mean, hey, Siskel and Ebert were arguably two of the best film critics around, and they lived off thumbs up or thumbs down.
That's how they made their
Right.
money.
You know, and for me, like, yeah, it's nice to boil it down to positive review, negative review, and be pretty clear on that. And in which case, obviously, this is a thumbs up. I think this issue is not a dumpster fire or anything like that. If it's dumpster fire, or I don't know what the opposite end of that would be.
I think this sets up a lot of potential for a series that could be really good. It reminded me a lot of ways of Invincible, the beginning of Invincible, where it's this, I mean, in completely different circumstance, but this kid, for lack of a better term, who suddenly gets powers, and it's very serious, but at the same time, there's like kind of like a silly, lighthearted aspect to it. So yeah, I mean, and clearly that was a very, very popular series that went on for quite a while and is now getting turned into a cartoon, right? Or animated series. It's going to be not a cartoon. It's not going to be for kids.
You can't do Robert Kirkman for kids. I don't know if that works.
Well, hey, he did Super Dinosaur.
I thought you were going to say Firepower, because that,
yeah, I mean, that's
pretty kid friendly.
Like Firepower.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this certainly has the potential to like be a successful superhero comic for a modern age, if they continue it and continue writing it well. So,
I mean, I think there's a lot of very interesting things on the table there, because they do focus so much on his debt and how he's tried to be a writer but has failed and stuff. And at one point he does I think right there at the end, he mentions like, all good writers focus on themselves or something unique about them or whatever. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this power and all of that plays into not only his writing, but his debt. Like, is he going to try to make money being a superhero so he can pay off his debt? Is he going to announce himself to the world? Like, there's a lot of different avenues to go there. Is this going to be like Max Steel where he tries to be a hero, or is it going to be like Chronicle where he tries to get his revenge? So
yeah, it's, and to kind of plug myself a little bit here, in the superhero book that I wrote that is theoretically eventually going to be published if I ever finish editing it, there's a short scene where the narrator is talking about how when he discovered his powers, he thought about doing something like robbing a bank, basically. Like he says, I never would do that, but like, of course, the thought crosses your mind is like, oh, maybe I could rob a bank now and like get $1 million and whatever. And clearly they've already established that someone using the same powers is robbing banks. So is this character going to be tempted to rob a bank to forgive his debts? Or is he just going to be suddenly, just the moral compass of this power source and be like, no, this is wrong. Even though I'm in debt, I would never do this.
Which I wanted to mention too, like some of those parallels reminded me a lot of the early Spider-Man stories. The first issue of ASM is basically him trying to join the Fantastic Four because he needs to make money to help take care of his aunt. Like,
right.
The issues of being able to have money, the issues of being able to take care of yourself and to be successful were things that Peter Parker was always sort of struggling with, and it really humanized him in a fun way. And I think this I'm not trying to like compliment this book, but it nailed those elements in ways that I think a lot of issue 1 superhero books don't.
Yeah, it's like Peter Parker taking pictures of himself as Spider-Man to sell to the Daily Planet as Peter Parker.
Absolutely.
The Daily Bugle, sorry. I know my comic books. Peter, that guy Peter Parker works for the Daily Planet.
He runs really fast.
Yeah, he can fly, jump over buildings and stuff, right? That's Spider-Man, right? I'm thinking of the right guy. He's red and blue, right?
Puts his enemies in the Phantom Zone, right?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it has huge potential, pretty entertaining first issue. not without its faults, but I mean, hey, please, if you know a contact, no, I don't want to be, I don't want to be sponsored. And spoiler alert: monetizing your channel barely gets you any money, at least at the level I'm at. So it's better than Watchmen. Chaos and Comics says.
Do you mean the film, or do you?
Hey, listen, no, it's not better than Watchmen. Having said that, though, like I am one of the people who thinks that Watchmen is not quite as good as people say it is.
Except, unless you mean the HBO TV series, because that shit is awful.
I have not watched it yet.
So good.
I saw one episode. Not even one episode, actually. Like 45 minutes.
I've heard good things, mostly from John.
He means me.
So yeah, I mean, that's about all I got to say about this book, I guess.
I keep dropping Ryan's channel in the link, and in the chat. I also dropped Biggie's, because Biggie is like 12
14
subscribers away from 1K.
Real close.
Oh,
So congrats to you, Biggie. Keep it up, man.
And Biggie is, someone who is always around, always putting out content. So the fact that he doesn't have 1K yet is, come on, let's get with the program.
For sure.
Although, like, I feel like my subs are grossly inflated by a couple of videos I made that were successful, and people don't really watch my content. So my 1,500 subscribers is like, I probably actually have like 600, which, hey, it's still great. Like, when I started, I didn't expect to get 100. So, I'm not complaining.
I recently broke 100, and that kind of blew my mind. I was like, there's 100 people that will click that button for me.
Hey, Stay Puff, if you're going to be at the Coliseum show this weekend, you'll probably run into me again. I'll be there all weekend.
He's always on the hunt, man.
Yeah. So I know you guys got to pick up and read Scout's Honor #2. I
think we already said it, right? I'm probably not going to get issue 2.
Yeah.
I think Ryan said yes. What did you say, Alec?
I'm pretty much at a point where, like, unless something like blows away my expectations, like, a Little Bird level, I'm off issue 2s. I'm going to read trades.
But would you buy this in trade?
I will wait to see some reviews. Like, I'm not going to run out and put a trade on my pre-order yet.
Okay.
If it turns out that people saying it's really good, yes, I'll definitely be interested in reading a trade, because I'm interested enough in the story and the way it's being handled that I would give it a shot. As opposed to something like Deceased, where everyone was like, "Oh, this is really good. You should read the whole series," and I'm like, "No, it's a hard pass for me, because I just dislike the first one that much." So, yeah. What about you, Ryan?
I mean, for me, like, I think my hesitation is more or less like, I really want to know how this character is going to approach the role, because I am a fan of Power Rangers. I do watch Super Sentai, the source material for that. So those two cultures have a very different perspective and reverence for those types of characters and heroes. And so that's kind of where my hesitation is I feel like we didn't get any sense of how this character is going to approach these powers, not even within his own character, Yeah. So that's kind of my one hesitation, but I'm definitely going to stay on this series just because I'm really fond of Kyle Higgins, and I know what he can do. And this issue felt like editorial probably was like, we're going to need to cut like 1 or 2 issues out or something. And so some things kind of got jumbled a little, but I'm hoping once we get past like the first 2 issues and the story kind of opens up, we'll really get into some cool stuff with him.
Well, did you read the thing at the end?
No, I didn't get to read all of it.
So he says that he wants to do a letters page because he really likes letters pages in comics, but he's not going to be able to start it until issue 3 because issue 2 is so kind of like chock full of story that they needed all of the pages to do the story, and they're not going to have the pages to do a letters page.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that definitely makes me excited to get past the first two. I think it'll really open up then.
But yes, I agree. Sentai is great. My favorite series from Power Rangers is actually Wild Force.
Oh, okay.
And I was working overnights at Toys R Us while it was airing in America, and I found someone on eBay selling bootlegs of the Japanese version called Gal Ranger that they were fan subbed.
Yeah.
So you could actually like watch them and follow the story. And I ordered all of them, and yeah, it's like strangely the same but much different at the same time.
Yes, it's like impossible to explain until you see it, like because it's completely different, but surface level it looks like the exact same thing. It's just like all the culture that goes into it, the way that they look at everything is completely different. It's so interesting.
Yeah. Good stuff. So I guess that's about it. I kind of like hinted at a couple things earlier. Number one, John and I are talking about maybe updating the format a little bit because some weeks we just really force an issue that we like neither of us really have interest in, and then it just is like us dump it on a book, and that's no fun. So
and then there's other weeks where we would have had, if we'd love to have had a chance to talk about more than one book, and maybe just one book just took over the show and was more than we could handle. So getting a chance to catch up on some stuff at the end looks nice. And yeah, Bearded, I am a little lost when people talk Power Rangers. It's just like, huh? What?
Yeah, I mean, I'm admittedly way too old to have been a Power Rangers fan, and John is older than me, so that means he definitely would have been too old. He was probably, out cruising for babes when Power Rangers was on.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like how you probably, I imagine you in high school.
Hanging out with that Pink Ranger.
Yeah, it hit me right. I was like 5 years old when it dropped, so
yeah.
It caught me just as I was coming off of Turtles, I went like Sesame Street into Ninja Turtles and then just like landed perfect right there on Power Rangers. So
nice. So yeah, we're gonna kind of mix in some trades. We're gonna mix in some other stuff, and just because
there's been in that same vein. Like I keep interrupting Alec.
Fine.
Ryan mentioned like giving a second issue a chance, and I've been noticing a bunch. A first issue that I think like there's something to kind of here I like, and then I stick with it. I find enjoying a second and a third issue. So like books like I snagged Origins this week, and I've been enjoying the daylights out of this. We Live is another example where I can, for both We Live and Origins, after reading issue 1, I was like, I think I like this. I'd give it an 8.5. It's like, it was good. I'm glad I stuck with those, and I will try to convince Alec to try those trades when those come out, because I think it's a really good way to get a full view of what the writer and artist were trying to do. And sometimes that issue 1 has so many editorial fingerprints that it robs the strength that comes later with other issues.
And if for those of you who were here at the top of the show and have been here the last couple of weeks, know that I'm becoming more and more disillusioned with the hobby, especially Wednesdays, because of just the speculator madness of like you can't, if you don't get there when you open to try to get a book, like they're just gone because people are snagging them up, and everything's $30 a day it comes out, and it's just stupid. So I kind of want to try to transition to read trades more, just because I feel like that's going to be more enjoyable for me. So I think it works out for everybody.
I love the explosion of
Girls.
like trades and graphic novels. I hope we see more of that in the industry, and I don't know. I think it's a hot take for a lot of people, but I'm fine with floppies dying in a certain way, I mean, we've already been talking about it, but the way Scout does things, where they do like the first issue, and if you like it, you buy the trade. If you don't like it, you don't buy the trade. I think that's a model we'll see a lot more. I think Marvel and DC will always put out floppies because that's what they're known for, But I could see a lot of these indies do more and more of their series like that, where they focus more on the trade or maybe like a novella style graphic novel or something.
Yeah,
well, I think the image market with the $9.99 trade has been hugely successful.
And I think Kickstarter is going to continue to grow for comic creators, and I think that's going to be a big thing for non-Marvel DC floppies as well moving forward. Because it's not sustainable for the industry or the consumer the way things are going right now. Additionally, the other thing I want to bring up is, for those of you who follow us on the Wednesday Comic Core show, notice there was no show tonight. It's because the boys and I are going to be on Comic Core Friday night this week to welcome a special guest, gentleman who goes by Panda Red, who is a TikToker who does comic TikToks and does little skits and stuff, and they're quite fun. And he's going to come on, and we're going to do a little quiz game show. So it should be a hoot and a holler. Should be fun. I mean, if I'm there, it's not going to be fun. You know why?
Don't discount yourself.
Because I'm the anti-joy equation.
Anti-joy equation all day.
Otherwise, Ryan, what you got going on coming up that you'd like to promote?
Actually, I have a video coming out tomorrow morning. It'll be available at 8 o'clock. It's on my podcast and YouTube. So YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, all of those. You can find it everywhere. And it's my preview of the books that are coming out on February 17th, so next Wednesday. But I did drop on Tuesday. I dropped an interview with David Pepos, and I know he's done a lot of interviews, but I went into it knowing that and having seen most of them. So I think I found a very different and unique angle. So even if you've watched a David Pepos interview already or multiples of them, he does not disappoint. And I think I talked about a lot of different angle on his career and stuff than a lot of other people. So definitely check that one out. Same thing, podcast, YouTube, however you consume it.
Very cool. John.
I have my pull list video dropping tomorrow. There's some really great books coming on the 17th next week. A couple of good indies that I think Alec and I are going to look at, just so that you guys are aware, for book club. Aftershock has a really interesting book called Shadow Doctor, issue 1. And this is going to be a book. It's a book about the writer Peter Calloway's grandfather, who was one of the first black men to become a doctor in Chicago, Illinois. And he went through medical school but couldn't get hired by the hospitals because he was black. So he started working for the mafia, Al Capone's mafia in Chicago. And so Peter Calloway, the grandson, is writing a comic book at Aftershock describing his grandfather's experiences. That sounds cool. And then Vault has a book called Hollow Heart, which is more of a sci-fi kind of thing. Remind me a little bit of Shape of Water, but with like
with less fish sex.
No, yeah, but with more, I would say, skeletal zombie sex.
I'm here for that.
So those two books, both next week, could be a lot of fun. So yeah, my pull list drops tomorrow. Edited pull list part of Tag Team Thursday, and then got the show with the girls Saturday. Got the D&D back on Sunday, and then Comic Gories special next Monday. We are doing the Bromance Valentine's Day edition. Bueller's going to be there. Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers is going to be there. We got Bearded. We got D-Runk. We got Bear Island. We got a wild crew of bromantic gentlemen, all going to celebrate a post-Valentine's Day comic book competition.
Yeah, speaking of Sunday, I'm uncertain if D&D will happen this week because it is Valentine's Day, and I know that people might have to be doing things with their significant others. So we'll figure it out and let you know. But we'll be back some point, and I'm sure Strahd will kill everybody. That's my plan, anyways.
Fair enough. Hey, Biggie, don't discount if we end up talking Hollow Heart, we'll go full zombie skeleton zombie sex if it has to happen.
Full penetration.
The full bone.
Got him. All right. I think that's a good enough place to end, right? Ryan, thanks so much for coming and joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. Thanks to everyone in the chat for stopping by and busting our balls while we've been talking. Thanks again to Comic G Spot for the 10 spot super chat. And otherwise, stay safe and never turn your back on the ocean. Okay, bye.